is your keynote or your opening keynote, is somebody that I call an amazing friend, but also an amazing writer, an amazing speaker. Boys and girls, it is the authority on networking, Stephen Thomas. Give it up!
If you like to gamble, I'll tell you.
Thank you so very much. This is my first time speaking in front of an audience, a business audience, I'll come to that in a minute, since February 2020, for reasons that all of you know. So thank you very much for coming along. This is my first time doing anything since I had an operation 3 weeks ago. So thank you. Is this working, Brad? Is this? Since I had an operation 3 weeks ago. And this is my first time speaking in front of an audience since I got married 6 weeks ago. Operation 3 weeks ago? Got married 6 weeks ago? Right, we're awake, we're alive. Thank you so much for coming. My name's Stephen Thomas. I'm the author of Business Networking for Dummies. I'm so flattered to be invited to open this show today. I'm going to talk about networking. I'm going to talk about how you can get the best out of today. I'm going to talk about how you can get the best out of LinkedIn, become a massive part of everyone's networking in the last couple of years. If it hasn't become a part of your networking, I'm going to talk about why it needs to be. I'm going to talk about how you can get the best out of face-to-face networking events like some of you have been to this morning, and how you can get the best out of virtual networking events like we've all been doing for the last couple of years. Does that sound all right? Yeah. We are alive. If I ask a question, typically the answer is yes, Steph. All right, so thank you. Let me tell you what most people are doing wrong when they go networking. I'll tell you exactly what most people get wrong, because I've been to about 1,500 networking events in the last 15 years or so. 1,500 cooked vegetarian breakfasts in that time. I didn't get this size by accident. That joke doesn't work anymore, does it? No. I've dropped 4 stone this year. The joke used to work. It doesn't work anymore. I'm just going to stand here and tell you stuff about myself that you'll clap at. Been to about 1,500 networking events in the last 15 years or so, written books about networking, spoken to a load of networking leaders around the world, and I spot where people go wrong and how they could so easily get it right, or better, or win more business out of it. That's what I'm going to talk about during the course of this morning. The ultimate KPI on this stuff, the ultimate piece of management information, is it actually working? Are you actually getting business out of it? We'll come back to that several times. Because here's what a load of people start off by getting absolutely wrong. And it's not your fault. I'll talk about it during the course of this morning. People, when they come to me and ask about networking, what they want everyone to do is look at them. When people ask me about networking, the very first thing that they ask is, how do I get better at my 40 seconds or my 60 seconds? It's all focusing on everyone looking at us. When people ask me about LinkedIn or social media, people's first question is, what should I post? What do you post? When's the best time of day to post so that you get the most likes and engagement on it? How do you deal with the LinkedIn algorithm so that you get more people? Everyone's focusing on getting everyone to look at them. So think about this for a second. If everyone who goes networking, if everyone who posts on social media is focusing on getting everyone to look at them, who's doing the looking? Who's actually out there looking at people? One of the things that I learned very early on in my career, not just in networking, I started my career in 1983 in a shoe shop. I really am that old. Started my full-time career in 1988. What about going to them? Because here's what people do. They expect everyone to come to us. We expect everyone to come to our place. What about going to them? I'll talk about exactly how that works this morning. But let me tell you in practice how that has worked for me over the years, how it's worked for other people over the years. It's no one's fault. When I went to my very, very first networking event, November 2005, no one told me that you had to do a 60-second introduction, and I was left at the end of that networking event with the impression that it was the most confident people in the room, the noisiest people in the room, who must be doing all of the business. Because the very It was the fourth or fifth ever 60 seconds I heard. It wasn't the first 60 seconds I heard, but one of the very first 60 seconds I ever heard was the late, great Jamie McIntyre getting on his feet. And this is what I thought networking was about, getting on his feet and saying, I'm Jamie McIntyre from Abacus Light Bulbs and Batteries. I will beat any price you're paying for your light bulbs and batteries. Tell me what you're paying and I'll beat that price. In fact, lie to me about what you're paying and I'll beat that price too. Security has been called. No one knows what's going on. That was my first experience of networking. I thought it was the Jamies that were doing all of the business. I thought it was the people who were getting everyone looking at them that were doing all of the business. Here's the thing. It's really, really simple to get people to look at you. Getting people to look at you for the right reasons, that's what takes a bit more effort. When it comes to networking, when it comes to social media, when it comes to relationships, effort is currency. Here's the real opportunity. No matter what I talk about during the course of this morning, talking about effort, talking about how to make networking work, most people won't bother. The real opportunity is that most people won't bother. So if you're the person who does, you will absolutely win out of this. I absolutely promise. Tell you where the concept came from. Before this part of my career started, I was an estate agent for 20 years, 1988 for 2007. I was an estate agent for 20 years. We're getting there. And we had a concept. Our average fee in estate agency in rural Oxfordshire in 2007 was £3,600. And our concept was, what would we do extra to win that £3,600? What would we do more than any other estate agent in town? There were 12 other estate agents in town to make sure that we won that fee. What would we do in the sale, in the marketing, in going out to people? What would we do in our service so that people would talk about it, so that we would win that £3,600 fee? So we did more than anyone else. It was really simple. We did more marketing. We went and talked to more people. We gave our sellers more value all along the way so that we stood a better chance of winning that fee. Ask yourself this. What are you doing in your business over and above everyone else to win that fee? Whatever is your average fee for whatever it is you do. In 2009, 2010, something like that, the UNA Alliance of Insurance Brokers approached me to speak at their annual conference. They didn't just approach me, they approached a ton of speakers. And it actually took them 18 months to make the decision. Lengthiest process I've ever dealt with. But the UNA Alliance of Insurance Brokers approached me, said, you know, we're talking to a lot of speakers about speaking at our annual conference. First thing I did was get on the phone to them. Most people still try and do everything by message. It's still perfectly legal to pick up the phone and actually talk to people. And then I said, I'll tell you what, look, your head office is in Nottingham. I'm based in Oxford. Your head office is in Nottingham. How about this as a really stupid idea? I know this guy called Terry Dorr. Terry runs a load of networking events in and around Nottingham. If I can get myself to speak at a networking event up there, and you guys come along, it'll just be a couple of hours out of your day, won't cost you anything, I'll sort that out. If you guys come along, you get to try before you buy. You'll get to see me speak, you'll get to actually meet me. I drove to Nottingham, they came to see me speak at a networking event for 15 minutes. I got the gig, that fee was over £2,000. I went to them, I won the business. In 2007, I registered on this new website, 4networking.biz, and registered, had been on there for about half a day, and the owner of that business picked up the phone and talked to me. But not only did he talk to me, Brad said, oh, you're based in Oxford. Right, Oxford. I think we're looking to build some groups in Oxford. And a week later, he drove up to meet me, and I was area leader for 4 groups in Oxford pretty much by the end of that conversation, and then regional leader for 27 groups 18 months later, and then network director for 5,000 meetings just after that. He came to me, he got the gig. Could have just left me as a registration on the website, could have just picked up the phone and had a nice chat, but he came to me and he got the gig. Think about how you're going to other people. Let's put this in a ton of context for you. When you go to networking events, virtual or real life or face-to-face, it doesn't particularly matter. When you go to networking events, what most people do is they're so focused on what they're going to say, they're so focused on getting their 60 seconds right, they're so focused on making sure that other people listen to them, they don't think about the other people in the room. How about this for a concept? When you go to networking events, really listen to the other people in the room, think about how you can help them. Go to them. I wrote a book called Win the Room. The whole concept of that is how to become the go-to person at your networking event. And it's not about being the guy who shouts. At that first networking event I went to in Whitney, as well as noticing the guy who was shouting, I also noticed the other people who were a bit quieter, who were making notes, and then organising one-to-ones and meeting up with people afterwards. What I learned later is that it was the quiet people, the people who were making notes, the people who weren't the huge demonstrative 40 or 60 seconds, it was those people who were winning the business. Because they were looking at how to give value first to everyone else in the room. Think about this for a second, no matter what you do. And I've seen this play out, I've seen this win so many times. If you're the person who's constantly looking for referrals for other people, who's constantly looking for opportunities, you're going to be a pretty popular person in the room. If you spend your time getting to know other people, really, really getting to know them, and I've played this out this week, and I promise you it works, if you spend your time really, really getting to know other people, one of the things that can happen is that when you pick up the phone to them, or when you send them a LinkedIn message or whatever it happens to be and say, I'm launching this new service. Remember we talked about this a few weeks ago? And you were having a challenge with this, and I'm doing this, and I think it'll work for you. People pay attention. If you've been the first person to bring value to each and every relationship. If you're just a person who goes in there and shouts and then sells, you're the person, really hate it if this has actually happened to some people, you're the person who people, what, hey, how are you doing? Got busy? Yeah, lovely to see you. Think about how to become the go-to person in the room. Think about giving value to other people first. Think about going to them rather than expecting them to come to you. Way before I get to any networking meetings, I make absolutely sure that I'm not walking into a room full of people who I don't know. And the way that I do that is really, really simple. I use LinkedIn quite a lot, as you can probably tell. One of the things that I do constantly is look for people who are talking about my subject on LinkedIn. For me, networking events, business networking, whatever it happens to be, and I go and engage with them. I look for people really quite strategically who organize conferences that I might be able to speak at, and I go and look for them on LinkedIn and start commenting on their posts. When I find them, maybe 2 in 10, 3 in 10 of them actually post anything on LinkedIn, but those who do, I go and comment on their posts. If I'm going to an open conference, I tend to go and look at who else is going to be there, because people post about it, people use hashtags on LinkedIn and Instagram, and go and engage on their posts. I look for random people talking about networking all over the world, and I go and engage on their posts and start chatting to them. Here's something that comes up whenever I do this. People are sat there thinking, yeah, but hold on. Isn't it weird if you go and talk to people who you've never met before in different countries you're not even connected with? Think about when you post something on LinkedIn or whatever it happens to be. Think about how thrilled you are when anyone comments. Think about how absolutely thrilled you are if it's a new person who's commenting on your stuff. Just by the way, really, really important, if you're going to comment on other people's posts on LinkedIn, read the fucking post. Don't just comment what he said. Awesome. I put posts out there and talk about deep stuff, and people, yeah, thanks for sharing. Put the effort in. Don't just copy and paste your responses to people. I go and talk to random people on LinkedIn who are talking about networking. Let me tell you something that happens. Someone organizing a networking event in Toronto in Canada goes and checks out my profile and then gets in touch with me and said, this happened last year. How much would you charge to come and speak at my virtual networking event next Thursday? It'll be 7 o'clock in the evening for you. Hope that's okay. How much would you charge? I've commented on loads of posts around the world about networking. Someone looks at my profile, photo like that, keynote speaker, talks about networking. How much would you charge? I go to them, and then guess what happens? People come back and look at my stuff. Spend as much time as you can going finding people that you can engage with. That's why we go to networking, to find new people that we can engage with. Think about Facebook and LinkedIn, by the way. Think about the posts in the Network Central Facebook group, any post that you can go to on LinkedIn. Here's what people get wrong. They are mini networking events and you're invited. Most people scroll past. Scroll past, scroll past, scroll past. I'm posting something. Every post that someone puts out there is a mini networking event and you've been invited to it. There's something about this. People ask me a lot about the LinkedIn algorithm. And think about this. If I post something, I'm at the behest of the LinkedIn algorithm to actually show it to you, because it won't show it to all of you by a country mile. I'm at the behest of what time of day I actually get round to doing it and whether that hits everyone. And I'm at the behest of how busy people are, whether they're actually looking at LinkedIn. If I go onto your post and comment on it, you're going to pay attention to my comment. So are some of the other people that I posted, because they'll get notifications to say, Stephen Thomas has commented on this post as well. Every post, Network Central Facebook group or on LinkedIn generally, is a mini networking event and you're invited to it. The people that you've met at networking events, go and support their post, not just because it's supporting them, but because it works. I met a guy called Paul McCluskey at a networking event that Brad and I were at in Warwickshire 7 or 8 years ago now. Brad and I, the real speaker that was going to fill my slot had dropped out. So Brad said to me, look, I'm speaking at this thing tomorrow. The organisers have just said that the real speaker at 10 o'clock in the morning has dropped out. Any chance you could do it? There's no fee, but they'll put you in a hotel room. We were in Swansea. This was in Leamington Spa. We'll need to be there tonight. And I went and did it. And one of the people in the room liked what I had to say from a stage just like this. And he booked me to speak. And then at the end of the day, there was a guy there called Paul McCluskey. I met Paul in the lobby afterwards. We were both taking down our pop-up banners and both struggling with it. Paul's not even as tall as me. So we were both struggling to take our banners down. I met Paul at that event. He was a very senior manager at Lloyds Bank, responsible for a team of 90 salespeople. So we kept in touch. Here's what I didn't ever do. I didn't ever say to Paul, you ever organised a conference, Paul? Can I speak at your conference? When's your conference coming up? Can I do your conference? What I did do was spend over a year looking every day for what Paul had posted on LinkedIn, reading it. He posted a load of stuff about the legal profession and commenting on it. When it rose to the top of the pile on his desk to organise his conference for that year, Paul called me and said, well, I couldn't ignore you, could I? Because every time I went on LinkedIn, you were supporting me. You were in my notifications. You were, Stephen Thomas has shared this. Stephen Thomas has commented on this. I went to him. I got the gig. I spoke in front of 90 sales account managers at Lloyds Bank at one of their HQs in London, and got me paid pretty well and got me a load of good coverage as well. And I'm still doing business. Paul signed up later on as well. When Paul launched his own business, he signed up for the Networking Success Program, launches September the 28th. Talk to me afterwards if you want to find out more. Paul became a long-term client as a result of that. Go to them. Here's what happens when you do enough of that. And I do it in my micro moments, by the way. I sit there at night. I sit there when the television's on or whatever, and respond to people on LinkedIn, on my phone or on my iPad, whatever it happens to be. I spend a couple of hours a day doing it. If you ask Sharon, she'll say a bit longer than that. But I spend, let's say, a couple of hours a day doing it, responding, comment to people on LinkedIn. When you do enough of that, people come back and comment on your stuff. People come back and look at what you're doing. What you've got to do then, when you've done enough of this, when you've put yourself out there, this isn't the end of the story, unfortunately. What you've got to do then is make sure you're giving people something to look at. Aren't we so vain? Stand here so you get this bit. He's taking photographs, not video. You'll get the best photos. Just vain, sorry. Made me chuckle, but I'm good with that. When you do enough of that, people will come back and look at your stuff. You need to make absolutely sure you're giving them something to look at. Whether it's your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile, what you post on LinkedIn. Put this in context. I post on LinkedIn about 3 to 5 times a day. Written posts, giving advice about networking. Videos, giving advice about networking. Videos showing me speaking on stage so people who book speakers can see that I can actually do this. Podcasts, giving people advice about networking. So when people come back and look at me, which they will do, it's not a one-to-one relationship. Just by the way, just because I look at something that Wayne has posted on LinkedIn or Facebook, wherever it happens to be, it doesn't mean that he's duty-bound to come back and look at me. It's not a one-to-one relationship. If you put enough out there, enough people will come back and look at what you do. Think about what you're putting out there. Here's what we're all looking for. We talk about the meet, like, know, trust in networking. And people ask me, how long is it going to take to get to that point after I've met someone until they trust me? It's not about time. It's about immersion. It's about how much effort you're putting into the relationship, how much effort you're putting into building your personal brand, your personal profile. When it comes to places like LinkedIn, if you go out and spend enough time on your relationships, when people come back and look at you, what are you giving them to look at? Are you putting enough value out there? Are you showing people that you can be trusted to do the thing that you say you're going to do? Here's how this works. I like to put everything into absolutely real context. I got to speak for the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, got to speak for them 4 years on the trot. The only speaker they've ever booked more than once. I was very, very proud of that. I was referred by the very wonderful Mike Freddie Gordon, who I think is here today or is going to be here today. I was referred into that organization by Mike Freddie Gordon, but once again, with a load of other speakers referred in there as well. When I got there on the day and said to them, so, you know, how come you chose me to speak? What was because I like to do my market research. What tipped the balance? They said, we felt like we already knew you. When we got your name in front of us at the committee, we went to have a look at your LinkedIn, we went to have a look at your social media. There were videos of you on stage. There were videos of you talking directly to your phone. We felt like we already knew you. Imagine how much that impacts on the trust if people feel like they already know you. Put so much effort in there into what you put out there, business stuff, personal stuff. I've talked about my weight. I've talked about my nervous breakdown. I've talked about the fact that I had an operation 3 weeks ago. Got married 6 weeks ago. Talked about all of that. Put enough out there so that people feel like they already know you. And then there's a final step, which a load of small businesses get wrong. How am I doing for time? Have I got 2 more minutes? Fine.
You need some more time.
Have we got more time?
More time?
A little bit more?
Not noisy enough. More time?
Yes!
7 minutes.
7 minutes, right, okay. I'll make this 7 minutes valuable. If you had something better to do, honestly, I'll make this 7 minutes valuable. And I won't just fill by saying I'll make this 7 minutes valuable over and over again. We come to the last step. I started my career in 1983, working in a shoe shop in Oxford. If you go into any shoe shop in the world, if you go to the Bullring, me being topical and local, if you go to the Bullring or Broad Street or Europe's largest Primark, we went in there last night. Europe's largest Primark, true story. Yeah, just outside the Bullring. If you go to any of those shops, we were as excited as you are, I promise. If you go to any fashion retailer, look up at the ceiling. It does something that small businesses don't do. If you look up at the ceiling, it says, please pay here. Fashion retailers, when I worked in a shoe shop, we knew how to direct people around the shop, find them a pair of shoes, make sure they visit the till on the way out. Something that small businesses can be really, really dreadful at is showing people the till, because we get all a bit scared of it. We hide the till from people. We literally hide the till. We do all this stuff. Yeah, Steph said, put content out there, and other people who are speaking today told us how to put the right content. Put all of this content out there, be absolutely lovely to people, and then hide the till from people. We don't show them how to do business with us. We get a bit icky about it. I'm excluding Terry Cooper from this conversation completely, because Terry isn't scared of selling to people at all. Don't be scared of selling to people. If you've been interacting with someone, and if you've got a service or product or anything like that that you think will work for them, get on the phone and talk to them. If you've put all of this effort into putting value into the relationship, being the first person to put value into the relationship, and you believe in what you do, people will take your call, people will read your message. If you put it out there and say, look, I'm launching this thing on September the 28th, that wasn't even subtle, Steph. If you put it out there and say, I'm launching this thing,
What thing?
this thing that I'm launching, insight, not a sales pitch, I've not forgotten, not completely. If you put this thing out there and you get in touch with people and say, look, we've talked about this, and guess what? If you've never interacted with them, like all of those LinkedIn messages you get, you probably won't read it, they probably won't read it. If you've put all of this effort into being in touch with them, they're probably paying attention. Plus, put the occasional advert out there on Facebook, LinkedIn, Insta, whichever is your preferred place, wherever you think your people are going to be, put adverts out there. I have no hesitation in also shouting every so often, I'm running this, I'm doing this, this is where it is, this is where you'll find information. I've also got very little hesitation with people that I've supported in saying, would you mind giving this a share? Here's a really good sales technique. I send people messages and saying, this probably won't be for you, but if you know anyone in your network, perhaps you could share it with them. And people say, well, why do you think it wouldn't be for me then, Steph? Or it might be, who knows? Don't be ashamed to show people the till at the end of your relationship. Please don't be afraid to do that. Put the effort into building the relationship. The real opportunity is that most people aren't going to bother. Build each and every relationship. Go one-on-one with as many people as possible. It's a lost art. We think that we have to go at scale at everyone, but go one-on-one with as many people as possible. Don't be afraid to show the till at the end of it. The ultimate thing is, right, I know people who shout at networking events and they get everyone looking at them. I know people who shout on social media. I've got 102,000 followers, and I haven't. They shout about that. I know people who do all of that, but actually aren't making sales. Is what you're doing resulting in the ultimate KPI for your business? Are all of these conversations turning into actual business over time? If they're not, look at doing something differently. Put a bit more effort in. Think about that estate agency concept. What are you going to do extra to win that fee? Because here's the thing. I've done 1,500 networking events in the last 15 years or so. Most of those were face-to-face. A ton of them in the last 18 months have been virtual. It doesn't matter if you've got it wrong up until now. It doesn't matter if what you've been doing up until now hasn't worked. One of the things that I was told throughout my whole sales career since 1983 is that you only get one chance to make an impression. But what I've fallen in love with about networking, having not done this since February 2020, first time on stage since then, having done 1,500 networking events, what I've learned along the way is that networking, social media, join it all up, these are the places where you get a second chance, or even for me, a 1,500th chance to make an impression. Enjoy the rest of the Business Networking show. It's amazing to see you. It's amazing to have an audience. It really is. Thank you very much for listening.